What's up, Internet? Brandon here with another free-to-play review. Today we'll be looking at a game called DrCog, and I'm really excited to show you this game. It's a game I've been playing a decent amount of the last few days. It's a format that I really enjoy, and so I'm excited to go through it. There is some things about the game that are difficult to understand and aren't necessarily taught in an tutorial-esque fashion, and so I'm excited to bring some insight into the game, talk through kind of how it plays, and hopefully it's something that you'll find valuable if this is a game you're looking to try out. So without further ado, let's get into looking at some of the gameplay. The setting for DrCog is a futuristic hospital where people can go to have their memories restored, and they do that via a machine, and the machine builds cogs to generate memory. And so the gameplay plays out over a number of scenarios where you're building out the memory for a given patient or reason. The gameplay appears to be semi-linear in terms of story, but it is randomized in terms of what your starting gears are. And so the way that the game plays out is you start with a certain number of gears, and then you can acquire more throughout completing puzzles, and you can modify them by upgrading them. And there's also additional buffs you can get for like your deck that allow you to modify the amount of memory certain types of gears generate. The gears are broken down into a number of categories that works out into a grid between attributes and age ranges. So on the x-axis you'll have the different attributes, and then on the y-axis you can see the age ranges, and then you can see what that cog is called in the middle there. And the way that these interplay is that if you have multiple gears in place for a given attribute or a given age range, they get different benefits. And so, one of the ones that I used a lot was love. So I had I would try to get 3 or 4 different love gears into my deck. And then what that did was when you have 2 different love gears in play, it gives you a 15% bonus to the amount of memory you're generating, but when you go up to 3, it's a 45% bonus, and so that bonus amount that you're gaining increases pretty significantly. Another one I used a decent amount is childhood. That one, every time the central gear cycles, which is when you gain memory, so there's that gear in the middle that builds up, and then once it reaches the top, it triggers and you get the memory based on all the gears you have in play. Every time that happens, if you have 3, I think, childhood gears in place, they all buff each other up. So you get like an extra 0.2 memory from each of those gears going forward. And so after, five rotations of the central gear, you end up with, gaining an extra 1 memory production from each of your childhood nodes. There's two numbers that it uses to compute the memory generated. If you look on the left side of the gameplay area, there is a counterclockwise and a clockwise number. Those are generated based off of what direction each gear is spinning, right? So if you have a gear that's worth 2 memory and it's turning clockwise, and then you have a gear worth 1 memory and it's turning counterclockwise, then your computed value will be 2, right? It'll be 2 times 1, which will give you a value of 2. If you say you have another gear that's worth 2, if you place it in a location that puts it in a clockwise direction, you're now going to have 4 times 1 for 4 points. If you place it in a counterclockwise direction, you'll have the 2 plus the 1 you have, and you'll have 3 times 2, and so you actually get more by increasing the lower number of your multiplication scale, right? So then you're generating 6 instead of 4. And so there's a little bit of ensuring you're balancing out where your gears are so that you can be generating as much memory as possible. Another thing that I feel like played into it a lot was determining when to switch a gear out. So like, just because you get a new gear doesn't mean you should immediately try to play it, because if the central gear is about to trigger and you take a gear out and then it triggers and then you put a gear in, you lost out on that memory. So always trying to make sure you're swapping gears out in between your central cycle is key. When you have 2 gears of the same type, they can be upgraded. You do that by having them both in your hand at the bottom of the screen and just dragging one on top of the other. One thing that I feel like this game would benefit from, there is a pause button, but you cannot affect gameplay while paused. So if you wanted to, pause so that you could clean up some gears or reposition some things, it doesn't let you do that. You have to do that live. You can pause so you can think about what you want to do, but you can't pause and then change everything around and then hit play once you have it where you want it. I think this makes it a little more difficult because you have to be a little faster on the mouse, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just an attribute of the game to be cognizant of when you're playing it. The upgrade aspect, so you can take 2 of the same gears and stack them to combine them into a higher tiered version. And then if you have 2 of that higher tiered version, so you've gained 4 of the normal gears, you can actually double upgrade it to level 3, and then if you for some reason get to 2 level 3s, you can get a level 4. In my playthroughs, I never got close to getting a level 4 though. So I think that might depend on how deep into the game you go and how much how much time you have in a round. Because I feel like most of the rounds I played through the first 2 major scenario, like full maps. So like the map will start. I'll pull the map up here. The map, it looks kind of like, again, a Slay the Spire-esque, where you're choosing kind of where you want to go on the branches. There's some nodes that gain you a gear, there's nodes that gain you a bonus, there's nodes that let you remove a gear. And then, so you can use those different nodes and plot out kind of how you want to make your way to the end. But then when you get to the end, there's a certain gameplay aspect applied to that challenge. And so the first one, it appears to always be you have to get a larger than normal amount of memory, and so it's a pretty hard one. I failed it my first few times, and then I did finally beat it on, I think, my 4th playthrough. And then I had a pretty good deck. I was moving along pretty well, but I had to go do something, so I exited to the main menu, shut the game down, came back later and realized that it does not have save files. So that's something to be cognizant of when you're playing this, is it doesn't save. So when we get to the rating portion, when I talk about the grindiness of it, I mean, it's a grind. It's whatever you can get done in the playthrough that you're doing. I think if they could add just a single save of your current play, I think that would go a long way for being able to pick the game up and put it down at different intervals. So hopefully that's something that maybe they'll be able to add in the future. But the gameplay itself I thought was fun. I thought it was challenging trying to get the right gears and figuring out what combinations worked. And I really enjoyed solving the puzzles, and like when I failed, it wasn't like, oh well, this game sucks, I guess I'm moving on. It was like, okay, let's see what we can do next time, right? And so I enjoyed the game a lot, and yeah, we'll go into the ratings part. I'm still figuring out the format, so I don't know if I'm going to include cam in this portion or not. I didn't on the last video, I did on this one. We'll see. In terms of enjoyment, I enjoyed the game a lot. Like I said, I thought it was very fun. I thought it was very interesting. I thought that the gameplay mechanics were unique, and so I gave it a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. In terms of grind, again, you can't save, so you can only get as far as you can do in one sitting, which is unrealistic for people who have kids or things that they might have to step away for. And so I think that for me, its grind rating is pretty low, just because it doesn't provide me with the type of flexibility I need when it comes to games. I need to be able to save something and come back to it, and I just wasn't able to do that with this game. I think if that aspect was fixed, it would go a long way to being able to maybe beat the game, right? Like I don't know how long it takes. I had a single run go about 40 minutes where I made it through 2 rounds of those maps, and I was still on the first patient. And that might be the game, right? There might only be 3 rounds, there might only be 4. I don't know. I didn't get there, and not realizing it wasn't going to save, I lost one of my best rounds, or chances at continuing to progress. So that's just something that gotta kind of will have to work through and try again and see how long it goes. Maybe I'll comment on here if ever I do finish the game, so that you can know the total playtime. In terms of price, rated at a 5. It's free to play. There's no charges. There's no battle pass. There's no in-app purchases. It's a free game that you get to go enjoy, and that is very awesome. In terms of draw, I want to play it again. I enjoyed the game. I will, like I said, eventually beat it so that I can know how long it takes. And so I gave it a 5 there too. So 17 out of 20 out of the games I've played. It's one of the better ones. Obviously, I've only reviewed 2, so it's not really going up against too stiff a competition right now. But as that grows, we'll see where it stacks up. So that's the video for DrCog. Again, it was an enjoyable game. Like the last video, I'll post a link to the game in the description box. My next video will be a weekly review for this week of all the games that were released, talk through some of them. I'll play a few of them just to kind of get a feel for them, but I won't do quite as in-depth of a review. I plan on only doing 1 or 2 of these a week because they take some time to throw together, and I like to make sure they're at least decently worth the time. And so like one of the games I played, just the review would be like, this is basically unplayable. The ratings would all be really low. Maybe I'll drop an article on it, maybe I won't, but I probably won't post a full video on it. Or maybe I'll do like a monthly like flops video of like games I tried and was just like, this wasn't worth anyone's time. So we'll see kind of where we go with those things, right? I'm still kind of feeling out what I want this channel to be and how I want it to work. So yeah, so if you enjoyed the video, let me know. Take care of yourselves and try this game out if it's something you're interested in. Thanks. Talk to you next time.